Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to give a 5-minute warning. If you could please find your seats, we will get things started in just a few minutes. Thank you. Hello again, everyone. If you have seats next to you that are empty, would you mind moving in so we can have our graduates sit down? We'd really appreciate that. Thank you. We'll get started in a minute or two. Good? Okay.
Hello, can I get your attention, please? Hello, can I get your attention, please? Oh, that's nice. Good afternoon. Okay, I'm going to go again. I think there's 700 plus people in this room, and our students are here to be celebrated. Good afternoon. That's what I'm talking about. My name is Faisal Abdulwala, and I hold the Chase and Distinguished Chair in Art. I'm also the Associate Dean for Art here at UW-Madison School of Education. It is a true pleasure to welcome you all to this special occasion, a day of celebration, reflection, and pride. Whether you've traveled across the country or walked across the campus to be here, and to the dozens of families and friends and colleagues joining us on live stream. I was told the camera's over there. We're so glad you are with us. Today we come together to honor our graduates. Your hard work, your creativity, your perseverance, and the remarkable journey that brought you to this moment. It's a celebration of who you are and all that lies ahead. Congratulations. As an associate dean at the school, I have privilege of seeing up close the brilliance, passion, and impact of our students. Many of you in this room have inspired us all with your ideas, your commitment, and your care for community. This is a moment to be proud, not only for our graduates, but of the incredible community you're a part of here at the School of Education today. Today is your day, and we are here to cheer you on. Before we get started, it's important that we acknowledge the space in which we're gathering right now on this campus. The University of Wisconsin-Madison occupies ancestral Ho-Chunk land, a place their nation called Dejo. Since time immemorial, the Ho-Chunk were forced to cede this territory following decades of ethnic cleansing, during which the state and federal governments repeatedly, but unsuccessfully, sought to forcibly remove the Ho-Chunk Nation from Wisconsin. The history of colonization informs our shared future of collaboration and innovation. Today, UW respects the inherent sovereignty of the Ho-Chunk Nation along with the 11 other First Nations of Wisconsin. Now it's my great honor, and it really is, to introduce the Dean of our School of Education, Marcel Haddix. Dean Haddix joined us last summer and is nationally recognized as a scholar in literacy and teacher education. Her focus on supporting students and educators and creating meaningful connections through education. She brings to UW-Madison a bold, thoughtful leadership style and a deep passion for the arts, literacy, health, and wellness, all core to our school's mission. Please join me in giving a warm, celebratory welcome to the leader of the #1 ranked School of Education in the country for the second year in a row. Please welcome Dean Marcel Haddix.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. What a day, what a moment, what a time. I am so thrilled to be here with each of you to celebrate you, your achievements, and this major, major milestone. Today is really a big deal. So let's just take a moment to take that in. Let's all just take a deep breath. Take it in, right? It's a really good moment. Earning a graduate or terminal degree is no small feat. It takes years of hard work, long nights, deep thinking, and probably more caffeine than anyone should reasonably consume. But it also takes a lot of heart, and it takes a vision for wanting to make a difference in the world. So today, we're celebrating our graduates who are stepping into roles as educators, occupational therapists, artists, researchers, community leaders, and so much more. People who care, create, educate, and advocate. Whether your work takes place in schools, in clinics, universities, studios, your neighborhoods, your communities, you are ready to lead, and we need you. So yes, commencement may come with a bit of pomp and circumstance, as we will all experience during this weekend, but this moment is about you and the people who helped you to get here, and the impact that you'll have on the world beyond this campus. Now, I have to be honest with you all. When I finished, actually both of my graduate degrees, I did not want to participate in any of the commencement ceremonies. Not a ceremony, I didn't want the robes, I didn't want the traffic, I didn't want any of the pomp and circumstance. I was tired, and I was ready to move on. I see some heads nodding, okay. But my family, especially my mother, had another plan for me. And I actually had an uncle, my dear Uncle Sullivan. He pulled me aside and he said, you know, this isn't just about you. Your accomplishments represent the whole family. And that really stuck with me, and it sticks with me in everything that I do, that I know that I'm carrying my family with me and all, my community with me and all that I do. For me, I was the first in my family to earn a PhD on both sides of my family. But I knew I was the one who was doing all the work, right? I was doing the reading, the writing, the research, the staying up late at night, through the weekends. But my family reminded me, even if it felt like I was alone, I wasn't doing it alone. My parents, my grandparents, my community, they carried me through, and they were proud. I'm so glad that I showed up, because that moment wasn't just for me, that I participated in the commencements. It wasn't just for me, it was for us. And that's what I want to leave you all with today, that this moment, yes, it does belong to you, the graduates, but it also belongs to the people who believed in you, who supported you, they made space for you. Maybe they cooked some warm meals, help with laundry, provided childcare, all the things, the sacrifices that people made to support you to be able to be here. So let's take a moment to honor them, your families, your mentors, your communities, the people who said, you've got this, when you needed that extra bit of encouragement, even when you weren't sure. So let's give them a round of applause. I see someone has a whole cheering section over there. That's all right. So graduating with your master's, your educational specialist, your terminal degree, it isn't just a personal achievement, it's an act of community. And with it comes responsibility, with it comes opportunity to give back, to hold the door open for someone else who's coming behind you, to lift as you climb, to create more space, more possibility, and more pathways for the next generation. So that's a part of what we mean when we say the Wisconsin idea, that education should influence people's lives beyond the boundaries of the classroom, the campus. You carry that idea with you now wherever you go. So take today in, celebrate, be proud, and tomorrow we expect that you will go out into the world and lead with purpose, with joy, and with community in your heart. So congratulations to the class of 2025. We are so proud of you. So now, I am honored to turn things over to my colleague, Dr. Stacy Lee, Associate Dean for Education in our school. She'll guide us through the next part of the ceremony, announce each of our graduates as they come to the stage. So thank you again, and congratulations to all of our graduates and to the families and communities that are here. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's so lovely to be here this afternoon to celebrate with all of you. Today, we're going to be recognizing a wide range of graduate degrees, including master's, educational specialist, PhD, OTD, and MFA degrees, all earned through hard work, dedication, and deep commitment to making a difference. A couple of quick notes before we begin. Please hold your applause until we're through with each group of graduates being recognized. And secondly, we hope that you will remain with us until the very end of the program. We will finish in time for folks to make it over to the Cole Center for the 5:30 event there. Today we'll begin by honoring those who are receiving terminal degrees, starting with the PhDs, then the OTDs, and finally the MFAs. Then we'll follow with our educational specialists and our master's degree recipients. I'll share further instructions as we go along. At this time, PhD graduates and your faculty advisors can begin lining up at the side of the stage. Our staff will be lining up our PhD students both by department and alphabetically. You were given a card at check-in that has your name and number on it. We'd like you to line up within your department according to those numbers. We'll start with counseling psych and curriculum and instruction. As they're getting organized, a little background. Before they begin the hooding, I'd take a few moments to explain the tradition behind all of this. Can you hear me? Yeah. I'm so short that, these things don't work for me. Okay. The academic hood has its roots in medieval European universities, where originally it served a practical purpose, keeping scholars warm in drafty halls. Over time, the hood became a symbol of scholarly achievement and a formal part of academic dress. In the US, academic hooding ceremony is reserved for those earning terminal degrees, the highest degrees in their fields. The colors and shape of the hood carry specific meanings. The lining shows the university granting the degree, cardinal, red, for the UW. The trim reflects the field of study, blue for the Doctor of Philosophy, sage for occupational therapy, and brown for the fine arts. Today's hooding ceremony signifies not just academic excellence, but also your entry into a community of scholars and professionals committed to advancing knowledge, creativity, and care. I'd like to note that as we recognize our PhD, MFA, and OTD candidates, we won't be reading individual dissertation or project statements due to time constraints. However, those graduates received a printed copy of these statements. Okay, so we'll begin with our PhD graduates. I'll ask graduates from Counseling Psych to please line up next to the stage, followed by those from Curriculum and Instruction. Okay, for graduates, this is what you need to expect. Please wear your cap and gown, leave your hood off. Give your unbuttoned hood to your faculty escort before you come to the stage. The card you were given at check-in can be handed to my colleague standing next to the stage. When I call your name, you'll come forward with your escort. I will read your name, and then Dean Haddix will assist you in getting hooded. Then you'll pause for a photo with your advisor and the dean. Then you and your escort can return to your seats. Once our hooding is complete, we'll move on to recognize our educational specialists and then master's degree candidates. After the program, we encourage you to take more photos. And now, without further ado, I will forward our doctors of philosophy, beginning with the Department of Counseling Psychology. Okay. Rie Jordan. Rie's academic hood is conferred today by her mentor and trusted advisor, Professor Alberta Gloria. Next, Sinju Lam. Sinju's academic hood is bestowed by Associate Professor Simon Goldberg. Next, Camille Yasmin Williams. Camille's hood is conferred today by her advisor, Associate Professor Simon Goldberg. Lovely. This concludes the conferral of hoods for our PhD graduates in counseling psych. Next, we have curriculum and instruction, and I ask that candidates from the Departments of Ed Leadership and Policy Analysis, Educational Policy Studies, and Educational Psychology begin to assemble on the stage. Okay, and now, curriculum and instruction. First, Salah Al-Ghabli. Salah's academic hood is bestowed by Assistant Professor L.J. Randolph. And next, Candace Anderson Amy. Candace's academic hood is conferred today by Associate Professor Erica Bullock. Next, Cynthia Biza. Cynthia's hood is bestowed by her co-advisors, Assistant Professors Diego Roman and Katie Kirsch-Gassler. Next, we have Malaika Silva Beverly Boxa, who is also being hooded by Associate Professor Maxine McKinney de Royston. Is Maxine here? Yes, she is here. Next, we have Zara Furchow. Sarah's hood is bestowed by her advisor, Professor Thomas Popkowitz. Next, we have Scarlett Wei-Kyung Hwan. Yes, okay. Scarlett's academic hood is being conferred today by Professor Lima Berland. Next, we have Hyun Huang. Hyung's academic hood is bestowed today by advisor Professor Thomas Popkowitz. Next, we have Sarah Florence Anita Ishmael. Sarah's academic hood is conferred by Professor Bernadette Baker. Next, we have Sira Kavuti. Sira's hood is conferred today by Professor Erica Halverson. Anya Nestorchuk. Anya is honored to receive her hood today from her advisor, Assistant Professor Diego Roman. Caleb Probst. Caleb's hood is bestowed by his advisor, Professor Erica Halverson. Kailea Suplan. Kailea's hood is conferred again by Professor Erica Halverson. Meredith Y. Meredith's hood is conferred by Associate Professor Emily Machado. Chushan Wu. Chushan's academic hood is conferred today by Professor Thomas Popkowitz. Shoei Yin. Shoei's academic hood is conferred today by Professor Thomas Popkowitz. Finally, we have one other CNI grad who's not here with us today, but we extend our warm congratulations to Ethan Czar, who is part of today's celebration from afar. That concludes the conferral of hoods for PhD graduates in curriculum and instruction. Now from the Department of Educational Leadership and Policy Analysis, Aziz Awaluddin. Aziz's hood is bestowed by Professor Richard Halverson. Next, we have Imani Barnes, who's being hooded today by her professor, Professor Rochelle Winkle-Wagner. Sorry. Next, we have Janela D. Benson. Janela's hood is again bestowed by her advisor, Professor Rochelle Winkle-Wagner. Janela, sorry. Janela. Next, we have Nicole Contreras Garcia, who's being hooded today by her advisor, Professor Shuli Wong. Next, we have Tony Rivera Dugal, Jr. Tony's academic hood is bestowed today by Professor A.J. Welton. Next, we have Erin Gill. Erin's hood is bestowed by her advisor, Assistant Professor Molly McQuillan. CJ Greer. CJ's academic hood is bestowed by his advisor, Professor A.J. Welton. Next, Deontay Iverson. Deontay's hood is bestowed by his advisor, Professor A.J. Welton. Next, we have Jason LeMay. Jason's academic hood is conferred today by his advisor, Clinical Professor Barb Suramek. Next, we have Bethany Sansing Hilton. Bethany's hood is bestowed by her advisor, Professor Shuli Wong. Next, we have Jung Chi. Chi's academic hood is conferred today by Professor Nicholas Hillman. This concludes the conferral of hoods for our PhD graduates in Ed Leadership and Policy Analysis. Before I call our graduates from the Department of Educational Policy Studies, I ask that candidates from the Departments of Kinesiology, Rehab Psych, and Special Ed begin to line up. And now, from the Department of Educational Policy Studies, Millie Bonagar. Millie's hood is conferred by Professor Leslie Bartlett. Oh, there we go. Next, we have Ariel Bournes. Ariel's hood is bestowed by her advisor, Professor Leslie Bartlett. Next, we have Virginia Downing. Virginia's hood is bestowed by her advisor, Professor Lynn Posey-Maddox. Next, we have Krista Evans. Krista's hood is bestowed by her advisor, Professor Lynn Posey-Maddox. Next, we have Liz Hauk. Liz's academic hood is conferred today by Professor Adam Nelson. Jonathan Marino. Jonathan's hood is conferred today by his advisor, Professor Leslie Bartlett. Catherine Dixon Rigel. Catherine's hood is bestowed by her advisor, Professor Bill Reese. This concludes the conferral of hoods for the PhD graduates in Ed Policy Studies. And now, from the Department of Educational Psychology, Ellen Anderson. Ellen's academic hood is conferred today by clinical professor Christy Kelly. Next, we have Gina Therese Benarek. Gina's hood is being hooded today by her advisor, Professor Andy Garbitz. Next, we have Cyan Alondra Cruz Rodriguez. Cyan's hood is conferred by her advisor, Professor Andy Garbitz. Next, we have Sean Harry. Sean is hooded by clinical professor Christy Kelly. Lauren Elizabeth Nucky. Lauren's hood is bestowed by her advisors, yes, just one, Professor Andy Garbitz. Pema Lamo. Pema's hood is bestowed by her advisor, Assistant Professor Sarah Short. Alexander Latham. Alexander's hood is conferred today by Associate Professor David Klingbeil. Shun-Yi Liu. Shun-Yi's academic hood is conferred today by Professor Dan Bolt. Madeline Schmidt. Madeline's hood is bestowed by her advisor, Professor David Klingbeil. Yuna Song. Yuna's hood is conferred by her advisor, Associate Professor Katie Eklund. That's not, actually, that's wrong. Okay. Next, we have Tong Tong Zhu. Oh, I'm so sorry. That was okay? Okay. Next, we have Tong Tong Zhu. Tong Tong's academic hood is conferred by her advisor, Professor Daniel Bolt. This concludes the conferral of hoods for our PhD graduates in educational psychology. At this time, I invite our doctors of occupational therapy and our MFAs to please start to line up. And now from the Department of Kinesiology, Abdullah Al-Said. Abdullah's academic hood is conferred today by Associate Professor Kristen Pickett. Christian Schmidt. Christian's hood is bestowed by his advisor, Professor Brad Astor. Emily Skoletsky. Emily's academic hood is conferred today by clinical professor Sharon Gartland. This concludes the conferral for our PhD graduates in kinesiology. And now from the Department of Rehabilitation Psychology and Special Education. Shweta Chandrasekhar. Shweta's hood is bestowed by Associate Professor Beverly Trezick. Julie May Clark. Julie's academic hood is conferred today by Professor Kimber Wilkerson. Michael Leonard Jackson. Michael's academic hood is conferred today by Professor Malachi Bishop. Ujma Khan. Ujma's hood is conferred today by Professor Susan Smidema. Sarah Park. Sarah's academic hood is conferred today by Professor Tim Tansey. Alora Pearson Overland. Alora's hood is bestowed today by Professor Kimber Wilkerson. Marcus Weathers, Jr. Marcus's hood is bestowed by his advisor, Professor Tim Tansey. Oh. This concludes the conferral of hoods for PhD graduates from the Department of Rehab Psych and Special Education. Now we recognize our Doctor of Occupational Therapy candidates. As the OTDs come to the stage, I ask our Masters of Fine Arts graduates to begin to assemble alphabetically. So with the OTD, Maddie Ahrens. Maddie's hood is conferred today by Clinical Associate Professor Sarah Polterick. Sophia Bunez. Sophia's hood is conferred today by Clinical Associate Professor Dan Warvet.
Yes, Sophia!
Alyssa Bath. Alyssa's hood is conferred by her mentors, Associate Professor Elizabeth Larson and Assistant Clinical Professor Alexia Rebney. Carrie Becker. Carrie's hood is conferred by Clinical Professor Sharon Gartland and Professor Dorothy Edward Ferraz. Oh, I don't think Dorothy's here. Yeah. Allison Block. Allison's hood is bestowed today by OT Fieldwork Coordinator Caitlin Robinson. Brooke Bossert. Brooke's hood is bestowed today by her academic advisors, Associate Professor Elizabeth Larson and Assistant Clinical Professor Alexia Rebney. Miranda Marie Damon. Miranda's hood is conferred by Clinical Professor Sharon Gartland. Emily DeBoer. Emily's hood is bestowed by her advisors, Associate Professor Kristen Pickett and Assistant Clinical Professor Sarah Zurawiski. Rebecca Freitag. Rebecca's hood is conferred by Associate Professor Kristen Pickett and Assistant Clinical Professor Sarah Zurowski. Alex Furlow. Alex's hood is conferred today by Assistant Clinical Professor Sarah Zarowski and Associate Professor Kristen Pickett. Alyssa Gentile. Alyssa's hood is bestowed today by Associate Professor Elizabeth Larson and Assistant Clinical Professor Alexia Rebney. Abby Hayes. Abby's hood is conferred by her faculty mentor, Clinical Associate Professor Sarah Poltorak, and her mother, Dr. Laura Hayes. Lauren Hill. Lauren's hood is conferred by OT Fieldwork Coordinator Caitlin Robinson. Ashley Hoheim. Ashley's hood is conferred today by Clinical Assistant Professor Sarah Zarowski and Associate Professor Kristen Pickett. Megan Hoofnagel. Megan's hood is conferred today by Associate Professor Elizabeth Larson and Assistant Clinical Professor Alexia Rebney. Kendra Eisen. Kendra's hood is bestowed by Assistant Clinical Professor Sarah Zarowski and Associate Professor Kristen Pickett. Catherine Eistvanek. Katie's hood is bestowed by her academic advisor, Clinical Associate Professor Sarah Poltorak. Hannah Laufenberg. Hannah's hood is bestowed today by Professor Carla Ozdarau. No? That seems wrong. Okay. Clara Mack. Clara's hood is bestowed by her faculty advisor, Clinical Associate Professor Dan Rorvet. Kaylee McIlvain. Kaylee's hood is conferred today by her academic advisor, OT Fieldwork Coordinator Caitlin Robinson. Claire Sheedy. Claire's hood is conferred by OT Fieldwork Coordinator Caitlin Robinson. Zachary Scrove. Zach's hood will be presented today by his advisor, Clinical Associate Professor Sarah Poltorak. Mary Summers. Mary's hood is conferred today by Clinical Associate Professor Dan Rorvet. Emily Sprague. Emily's hood is conferred today by OT Fieldwork Coordinator Caitlin Robinson. Gina Sylvester. Gina's hood is conferred today by Clinical Associate Professor Dan Rorvet. Leslie Tao. Leslie's advisors, Associate Professor Kristen Pickett and Assistant Clinical Professor Sarah Zarowski, bestow her academic hood. Emily Unmocked. Emily's hood is conferred by Assistant Clinical Professor Sarah Zarowski and Associate Professor Kristen Pickett. Emelina Van Bjor. Emma's hood is bestowed by her advisors, Associate Professor Elizabeth Larson and Assistant Clinical Professor Alexia Rebney. Ella Vanderpool. Ella's hood is conferred by their academic advisor, OT Fieldwork Coordinator Caitlin Robinson. This concludes the conferral of hoods for our doctors of occupational therapy. I ask that the Ed Specialist graduates begin to line up. And now, Masters of Fine Arts. From the Art Department, Morgan Baldinelli. Morgan's academic hood is conferred today by Professor Doug Rosenberg. Terilyn Janae Brown. Terilyn's hood is bestowed by her advisor, Professor Emily Arthur. Emily Graves. Emily's hood is bestowed today by Professor Fred Stonehouse. Tamara McLean. Tamara's hood is conferred today by Professor Faisal Abdullah. Mallory Stowe. Mallory's hood is bestowed by Professor and Chair for Committee, Fred Stonehouse. Anna Micah Singh is being hooded today by her advisor, Professor Lori Beth Clark. This concludes the conferral of hoods for our Masters of Fine Arts graduates, as well as the hooding portion of our program. Please join me in a round of applause. Now we will begin to recognize our educational specialists. Before I call their names, I invite all of our master's degree recipients to begin assembling. The Ed Specialist degree is a professional degree that builds specific expertise in educational fields through research and practice. EDS graduates, let me explain how our process will work today. When you checked in at our registration table, you were given a card with your name and your department. You do not need to line up alphabetically, but as you line up, please have your cap and robe on. My colleagues will be there to assist you. Once you're assembled, please approach the stage and hand your card to me for introduction. You'll then receive a congratulations from Dean Haddix, remain on the stage for a photo, and then you can return to your seats. Now let's recognize our educational specialists from the Department of Educational Psychology. Renzo Albertoni. Rachel Becker. Jordan Bondison. Evan Bouchon. Celine Cushman. Brooke Gassman. Jada Griffin. Carly Hubbard. Luke Johnson. Olivia LeBlanc. Emma Loader. Tabitha Martin. Emily Norman. Bryn Pape. Claire Stone. And that concludes the recognition of our educational specialist graduates. Please join me in a round of applause. Now we will recognize all of our master's degree graduates. The process will be the same as it was for the ed specialists. Asley Warren. McCall Walker. Lana Hishma. Nikita Zhang. Lisa Lee. Massandra Musel. Casey Reish. Anastasia Johnson. Grace DeGroot. Maisie Dyer. I didn't know you were coming today. Lisa Ayolo. Aiden Khan Schnell. Caitlin Wycheck. Dion Andrians. Amanda Ramirez. Brianna Zickert. Alexandra Schuett. Sarah Nortman. Melissa Torres. Dana Austin. Jun Bu. Trevor Harden. Colin Paushin. Carly Young. Fiona Johnson. Christian Angulo. Abigail Hodges. Essence Truth. Shannon Rogers. Queen Talia Trapp. Craig Umland. Signe Alger. Maya Topin. Nicole Montanez Alicia. Fiona McLaughlin, sorry. Andrew Bertoni. Larissa Bogle-Bossiger. Yinting Chen. Zoe Chen. Emma May Bricky. Kelsey Clark. Yeru Ding. Madeline Darling. Amy Fitz. Annabelle Fritz. Samuel Dean. Allison Fulweiler. Sarah Jeanette Gessler. Vicky Gonzalez Ubia. Yuan Xiao. Hassan Kim. Dawn Kirschner. Jonathan Lien. Sarah Lind. Alyssa Oxner. Azusa Oba. Kanisorn Santuntian. John Sanger. Barb Shaver. Peyton Sippy. Shannon Steggy. Julia Stupar. Christine Suey. Bailey Underwood. Patrina Wong. And Hanxing Wu. Okay, this concludes the recognition of our master's degree graduates. Please join me in a round of applause. Congratulations to all of our graduates and their families and friends. Let me close out the program by asking our graduates to continue to stay engaged with the School of Education. Follow us on social media. Join a local alumni chapter. Once you're a Badger, you're always a Badger, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you all for coming to our graduation ceremony event. As a reminder, the ceremony at the Cole Center begins at 5:30, and graduates are asked to check in no later than 4:50 to pick up their name reader card. Congratulations again. Have a great celebration.